Welcome to Mrs. True Crime. Today's video is an in-depth look into parent harmers Mitchell Simon and Derek Ward. It's a tale of rage and mental confusion. If you are triggered by anything dealing with death, feel free to click off this video. Perhaps check out my gaming channel, Retell Me Games, for some lighthearted content. If not, I'm Nicole. Let's get started. Between 1980 and 2008, family homicides rose by 13%, with fathers being more likely than mothers to be killed by their child. In 2014, family homicides accounted for 14.3% of the murders. Mothers accounted for 133 victims, whereas fathers accounted for 142. The majority of the murders took place either during an argument or an unknown event. Despite these numbers, parricide, the killing of a parent or guardian, is very rare. They equate to just 1% of all homicides. Most of the perpetrators are adult males over the age of 18. The motive for their deaths are usually money-related and seem to pertain to the father, but the murder of mothers is just as common. Matricide, the killing of one's mother, had 82% of offenders acting alone, with 113 offenders arrested between 1976 to 2007. Years later, Mitchell Simon and Derek Ward would try to add their names to that list. Described as a good guy and a straight-A student at Lakota West High School, no one could have imagined what 16-year-old band student Mitchell Simon was scribbling in his journal. He ranted about his parents, mostly his mother, stating he wanted her to burn in hell, drawing a picture of his childhood home with the words "Burn Parents Alive" underlined. At one point he wrote, "My parents are judgmental, racist bleeps. I hate my parents. They don't understand me. If only they would stop snooping around. They need to stop controlling my life. I am not a puppet." It's unclear how many pages filled his journal with these ramblings, or for how long he felt this way. But on October 23, 2013, in Liberty Township, Butler County, Ohio, Mitchell went into the basement of his family home around 11:30 p.m., grabbed a rope left from his Boy Scout days, went back upstairs, and tied his parents' bedroom doors shut. He then retrieved a gas can from the garage and poured it in different spots near the rooms. Then he lit a match. As the flames began to grow, Mitchell packed a duffel bag, took his father's cell phone, and planned to disappear to Indiana to pick up his girlfriend. He grabbed his mother's keys and took her car and drove away from his house for what seemed like the last time, but he shortly returned in time to see the firefighters and police on the scene. 50-year-old Perry Simon had escaped by jumping from a second-story window, breaking his ankle on the way down. With a few minor injuries and sprains, 56-year-old Sharon Simon was rescued by the fire department. Despite their trauma, both survived and firmly stood by their son, saying they don't believe Mitchell actually wanted to kill them. The Simons said that the night of the fire was a cry for help, rather than an intentional need to cause harm. They tried to take Mitchell to a psychologist before, but he refused. "He has told me we took away his stuff, and he wants to take away ours," Perry said, noting that it was the house itself Mitchell wanted to take away, not them. Mitchell was being punished for improper Facebook posts and skipping band practice. His parents had taken away his laptop, and he was allegedly angry over their ordeal. According to his testimony from police, Mitchell stated that he wanted to inflict as much pain as humanly possible on those who caused him to feel the way he felt about himself. Upon his arrest, Mitchell appeared in the Butler County Juvenile Court for a probable cause hearing. During earlier testimonies, Mitchell allegedly told a detective he was trying to kill himself, but backed out when he set the fires. After probable cause was determined, the case was then transferred to the Common Pleas Court, where he was then tried as an adult. He was charged on 2 counts of attempted aggravated murder and 1 count of aggravated arson. He pled not guilty by reasons of insanity and challenged his competency to stand trial. The court ordered a psychiatric evaluation that showed he didn't suffer from any severe mental defect, added he was competent to stand trial. Mitchell then entered a guilty plea. 7 months later, there was an extensive sentence hearing where Dr. Samuel Robertson, Mitchell's psychotherapist since his arrest, said that though Simon was making progress, he was uncertain that he wouldn't try and hurt his parents again. Robertson described Mitchell as a shy teen who was bullied during adolescence. A genetic issue during Sharon's pregnancy caused Mitchell's parents to spoil him, but it only ended with his desire to bully his parents instead. His parents then spoke and asked for community control rather than prison, in hopes that he could continue his psychotherapy. Judge Craig Hidrick wasn't moved.
You planned this out. You wanted your mother to quote burn in hell. That you wrote plan on top of the journal. On one page you put burn parents alive at the bottom. You drew a picture of a house with flames coming out of it and smoke.
Judge Hedrick went on to say that this was planned and thought about for a while. The court reviewed the charges and the case as a whole, and in June 2014 sentenced him to 9 years each for the 3 charges to be served concurrently. Afterwards, he is to serve 5 years on probation and to register as an arsonist for 10 years. The Simons fought the charge. Mitchell's parents were under the impression that he would get 3 years, maybe less, and obtain psychological help. My stand was I am not willing to accept 3 years of prison when I need my son to have some type of psychological treatment, Sharon said. Mitchell argued that the aggravated arson charge should merge with the attempted aggravated murder charges, but the trial court found that the 2 crimes were not allied offenses. In their appeal, John Engel, Mitchell's new attorney, argued that the Ohio law requiring him to be tried as an adult was unconstitutional and that the sentence was improper because he committed the crimes with the same actions and they were allied offenses. The 12th District Court of Appeals found his conviction in adult court constitutional, but agreed that the actions were allied offenses. The case was then returned to Butler County Common Pleas, with Judge Craig Hendrick resentencing in April 2015. Mitchell, now 18, said, "I would honestly like to thank you for the time that I've done, because I think without it, I wouldn't have been able to mature like I have, know what I know now, and to have bonded the way that I have with my loving family. I can't thank them enough for their support. I can't thank them enough for being there for me when I thought I didn't have anywhere else to turn." He since received his high school degree in prison and is taking computer training in hopes of becoming an engineer. Mitchell is also taking mental health and anger management courses in prison. His parents said though he was doing well, he was being assaulted and had suffered a chipped wisdom tooth during his stay in prison. Nonetheless, Judge Hedrick gave him the same sentence as before, saying that it's not just Mitchell's parents he has to worry about, but the safety of the public. Patricia Ward, 66, was described as kind yet serious, and a bit overprotective when it came to her son Derek, 35, but she had good reason. She divorced her husband John years ago, and her elder son Robert died of a heroin overdose in 1997, leaving the pair to count on one another. Derek suffered from an unspecified psychiatric condition, though in an interview his uncle, Reverend Robert Lebrano, said he had attention deficit disorder and dyslexia. Patricia struggled to find a doctor who'd accept Medicaid for her son because he was too old to be under her insurance. They found one for $200 for a 20-minute visit, and though there was never a history of violence between the two, Derek still suffered from a 10-year mental and criminal history. He was arrested in 2003 for criminal mischief and placed on probation. 3 years later, he was charged with possession of a Smith & Wesson gun and 100 Valium pills and received 45 days in jail. Still, Patricia stuck by her son's side and tried to give him the care, both mentally and emotionally, that he needed. In July 2014, the pair moved to Fairfield Apartments in Farmingdale, New York. Neighbors described the pair as quiet and kept to themselves, so no one expected what happened the week of Halloween. Derek was 4 days without medication, and his behavior seemed to grow in unpredictability. On one occasion during dinner, Patricia made the mistake of dropping a fork, causing Derek to grow in anger, though there isn't a report that he did anything abusive towards his mother at this point. His uncle, Reverend Robert, said that Derek claimed the noise hurt his head. In October 2014, around 8 p.m., neighbors saw what they assumed to be a Halloween prank. Lying on the ground in front of the Fairfield Apartments was a body. Well, a body and a head. A woman's body, wearing only a bra and panties, was sprawled out on the ground with clear trauma to her. Nearby, some 5 feet away, was her head. Some neighbors thought to pick up the body, unaware that this wasn't a prank or a fake. This was Patricia Ward, and she'd just been murdered. There were blood smears down the stairs of the apartment building, and a few in other places in and around the entrance of the complex. Inside Patricia and Derek's second-floor apartment, officers found what they determined to be the murder weapon, a kitchen knife. They also declared that Derek stabbed Patricia multiple times and somehow broken her ribs. For an undetermined amount of time, Derek sat with his mother's body, then dragged her headless corpse down the staircase, through the building lobby, and onto the street. He also carried her head, then kicked it feet away from her body. There were apparently no sounds heard during the massacre, as well as no motive. Police thought to ask Derek, but his body was found at Satague Avenue, about a mile from the murder scene. As neighbors began to pick up or investigate the body, Derek walked 3 blocks to the Clinton Street crossing and jumped in front of an oncoming Long Island Railroad LIRR train heading east from Penn Station to Manhattan. Passengers were forced to wait on board for 2 hours while evidence was collected. Around 11, all trains heading eastbound were canceled. They were reopened the following morning. When Derek's body was found, he was carrying a pistol and 100 volumes. Since Derek was now deceased, police tried to piece together the events of that night and all things leading to it. Though Derek was without his medication for 4 days, police also believe the August 2013 death of his grandfather worsened his mental state and he just snapped. It would later be found that Patricia was only 2 days away from an appointment that would get Derek the medication he needed. Patricia Ward was an assistant professor of language arts for 28 years at Farmingdale State College. She taught the Long Island Educational Opportunity Center, which helps high school students prepare for college. Patrick Calabrea, the college vice president for institutional advancement and enrollment, said she was well known, well liked, and well respected. The campus is a very sad place today. I've watched a lot of Investigation Discovery this week, particularly the show Evil Lives Here, and in most of the cases where a child is convicted of murder, the parent or guardian or whoever is the closest relative says mostly the same thing. I don't know if there's anything else we could have done. Both Derek and Mitchell suffered from mental issues. They were either untreated or held as unimportant by the males. The truth is, no one can force anyone who doesn't want help to receive it. According to mentalhealth.gov, 1 in 5 American adults experience a mental health issue. 1 in 10 young people suffer from depression, while 1 in 25 Americans live with serious mental health issues such as schizophrenia. Friends and family can be an important influence to help and support those with mental issues. 44% of adults with diagnosable mental health problems and less than 20% of children and adolescents receive the proper treatment. No, we can't end mental health, but maybe we can help, support, and guide those like Mitchell and Derek, and incidents like these won't happen as often. I'm Mrs. True Crime, and remember to be kind, be loud, be aware. For more information about Mitchell Simon or Derek Ward, why not check out some of these awesome links? And if you like what you saw and heard today, why not drop a like and a comment? Maybe subscribe while you're here? I make new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and you won't miss what's in store.